it's always interesting every I guess every 2 years or so, 3 years, where we see retro games hitting like mainstream cable.
I fucking hate it.
There was
oh god, I hate.
There was some asshole who went on Pawn Stars trying to sell Nintendo World Championship cards.
I heard about that.
It was absolutely fucking terrible.
It was, yeah.
Holy shit.
It was bad.
But what happened recently was Storage Wars, which is a show me and Frank used to love. It's been on for already about 5 years. I think 6 years. What's interesting about Storage Wars is I've met half of the cast. Like, David Hester, who sued the show, was on the show originally, sued the show, was off the show, back on the show. He sells regularly at one of the flea markets I go to. Mm-hmm. I'll talk about that later. However, there's another guy named Renee, who's a piece of trash, that used to sell at my flea market, who's on the show as a semi-regular. And then the main centerpieces of what I'm about to say used to sell at the swap meet here. So what is Storage Wars? Storage Wars is a show which is, I'll get into whether or not it's real or fake, but it's mostly fake. Storage Wars is based upon what people have done for years is delinquent storage units exist everywhere. Southern California and California, for some reason, is a mecca for them.
Transient people, transient town, yes.
Transient cities, all of Southern California, military cities, people get in and out. So if you don't pay your rent on your storage unit, the storage property people take it over. They do an auction. So for years and years and years, this was sort of a secret thing that most people didn't know about. Mm-hmm. You'd have people that would literally, they go to a storage unit. You'd have people bid for them, but there was understanding not to bid against the person next to you because, hey, we don't bid against each other. We can get a storage unit full of thousands of dollars of stuff for like $50. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was for years. And those people then take that stuff, put it online, pawn shop, have their own stores, or like other guys at my flea market used to do a lot, take it and sell it at the flea market, which has lessened and lessened. So what Storage Wars did was make it into a reality show. And they sort of blew the lid off of people finding out about this done. So what happened to it was more people got into it, not just the people that would show up for the tapings of the show, but in general they would show up. And I've talked to storage unit guys that have done this for years and years, and they fucking hate this show for exposing the business.
We've dealt with, there have been a couple of storage unit guys that we've dealt with for years at Luna, and they can't stand the show.
Not just they can't stand it because it's gotten more people into it to bid up prices of units that they used to be able to get for $50, they're now paying $500 for. But Storage Wars does a nefarious practice that, according to the people I talk to, they do what's called salting the units. Now, salting is a term for going back to the Old West, where if you had a gold mine you wanted to sell,
right,
you would blast little specks of gold on the walls. You would salt it with gold. That's the expression. So you'd bring in the prospective buyer saying, oh, look how great this unit is. A sucker. Give you all their money for a worthless mine.
Right.
And so for this show, reportedly what they do, and I'll get into reasons why I think it's true, they put high-priced items in these units just for the show, so that people can go, oh, wow, this is interesting. Otherwise, you have no show if you bought a bunch of storage units every week and it's absolute garbage, or, oh, it's interesting, it's just machinery, but nothing cool.
Right.
So every episode of this show, they find something interesting in at least one of the units, bring it to a quote-unquote expert, and it's worth a lot more than what they got the storage unit for. From my dealings with people at the swap meet saying, the stories they have about finding rare art, finding gold, finding Rolex watches, that stuff has happened.
Sure.
But it doesn't happen every week.
No.
And so these stories that have come from, the storage unit people, they've used that in the show.
Okay.
But it's definitely not true. Because, again, if not saying it doesn't happen, but if you know you have a painting worth $50,000, you know you have gold and cash in
why
a
would
unit,
you put it in a storage
why
unit?
would you leave it there?
Right. No,
if you're that hard up for cash.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Not
everyone dies.
Yeah. And you're gonna touch on this because this is where we're going, but video games are something that I can see being in a storage unit.
Sure.
Gold, fine art, sure, maybe once in a while, but probably by accident by someone who either died or didn't really know what they were doing.
And that'd be a story you hear about once a year happening.
Yeah.
Not every week. And so the buyers that quote unquote found a bunch of, this is a lot of Nintendo games. It was like a Nintendo system and about 50 or 60 games there. It was Daryl, known as the Gambler. Daryl I've had dealings with at the swap meet. He used to sell at the swap meet 4 or 5 years ago. when the show first started, A&E was filming there before it was a hit, before it was even there. They were filming there 5-6 years ago. Crews were there, and I even asked, and Frank was there, hey, well, you guys are filming something. Oh, yeah, we're doing this, documentary. And this was like the first episode that they were shooting there, showing what these guys do with the stuff they find. Show's morphed since then in 6 years. So it was Daryl. I bought stuff from Daryl before. His son's usually there. Frank would always kid about, hey, don't be so hard on your son. This is during the first season before the show blew up. Daryl is a little rough, which I'll get into, how he deals with people. So supposedly Daryl found 50 Nintendo games and a console, and he brought them to get checked out at a store. This is what was in the lot, if you haven't seen it. Now, I might be missing some, but these are the high-ticket items.
Right.
There was a Trolls in Crazyland, which is a PAL game. There was a Stadium Events PAL version, which they did not say it was PAL on the show, which is the difference between a game worth thousands of dollars or $400 or $300.
And the guys behind the counter didn't acknowledge it. Like, you should know that.
Yes, they would have known if they were running a store. A Zombie Nation, a Snow Brothers, a Power Blade 2, and a Bonk's Adventure. Those were the marquee games.
He had only seen Zombie Nation once in 10 years. I've seen it probably 4. I
found it at the swap meet twice.
I know it's rare. I know it's worth money, but...
excuse me. I found it at the swap meet. I knew someone else that found it at the swap meet.
Stop pumping up your fucking penis. I mean, it's not that hard.
So let's just say that the Trolls in Crazyland, Stadium Events PAL, Zombie Nation, Snow Brothers, Power Blade 2, Bonk's Adventure. Let's just say that's worth at this point, I don't know, $800, $900. You want to say that?
No, let's just be crazy. Let's just call it the grand, because
the grand.
Let's call it the grand.
NES and 50 common to uncommon games, even with a Contra. We'll say 300. Is that fair?
3 to 4. Let's shoot for the moon. Let's say 500.
1,500 for 50 games. The games we just said were the marquee games in an NES. That works.
Yeah,
we'll say 1,500. That's probably overestimating.
Oh, that's definitely.
They came in with these games, and the people behind the counter said that those games were worth $3,000. They were lying through their fucking teeth about the value.
Yep.
Absolutely. And so, obviously, they're pumping up. First of all, if that was a Stadium Events NTSC, it would have been worth a few thousand on its own at this point, if not 4 or 5 or 6, however people are spending on that stupid fucking game.
This is the crux of the problem. If you realize that the Stadium Events is PAL, suddenly everything they said is bullshit.
Yes.
If it was a real Stadium Events, then they would have been probably close or even under, but it's not.
Yeah. So they offered which happens in the show from time to time, they said, oh, we're going to offer you money for it. Then it becomes almost like Pawn Stars. They offered $1,200 for the lot, which again, I don't know what money they're making on that, unless they just wanted showpieces, or unless they thought they were tricking them and it was a real Stadium Events, but they didn't realize it wasn't a U.S. version of Stadium Events. The whole thing doesn't make any fucking sense. None of it makes sense.
No. Well, here's what doesn't make... So as they get the assessment, and they start to, like, pack the stuff up, and the guys are like, well, we can't let you walk out of here with that collection. We want it. And the guy was like... What did he offer? Like 50? They were like... Anyways, the storage war guys were like, 4,000. And it's like... No, that's not how... That's not
how negotiation works.
That's not how it works. You just told them that you want to charge them more than what they quoted, which is $3,000 at retail, which is wrong.
But this is how Daryl is. I've encountered him where if you show interest or he thinks you know more than him, he thinks the stuff is worth more and he'll bump the price up. I cannot remember what it was I wanted to buy from him. It wasn't even a video game. It might have been software or something weird. And I made him an offer on it, and I guess he didn't like how the negotiation was going, and so he raised the price on me. But then he did this as well, which is what he did in the show. He did this to me, and I remember this from like 5-6 years ago, last time when I saw him.
Flipping?
So they said, we'll flip you for it. I'm a gambler. That's my name. We'll flip you for it. $5,000 or $5. And in my head, I'm like, okay, even if... the guys even said we can't make money at $5,000. Hell, they couldn't make money at $1,200 barely.
They couldn't make money at $3,000.
So it didn't make any sense, and it's just an asshole thing to do. The show I have balls and you don't. Plus, I'm gonna of course they give these people money to bid on these auctions. So for him, it doesn't matter the $5,000 either way. It's just for show.
Right.
You know,
That's why he can do it.
That's why he can do it.
Because he sure as fuck wouldn't do it if actual money of his was riding on the line.
No, if he knew the games were even worth $3,000, he was going to risk $3,000. If I was just doing it just for show. So, but before anyone gets on me for the show I was on, if I was, first of all, the values discussed with my games were real values.
Sure.
First of all, the offers were real offers. The counters were real. So this is entirely different. So why it's a shame? Because this is what happened when the Yahoo story came out in 2010 about mainstream news. People think they have gold, and when you overinflate shit that's totally fake like this isn't like a Nintendo World Championships that no one has. This is people thinking all my random games are worth $1,200 or $3,000. My stack of 40 Nintendo games.
And that's what I was going to end on, and you stole my thunder. But that's exactly what it is. This is another partial sealed stadium events found in Grandma's closet. Yeah. This is going to cause me to have to deal with people who think that they have $100 copies of Zelda for the next 6 months. And it's going to happen. And it's going to happen because another store, somehow, and they've been in business for 10 years, have no fucking clue what they're talking about in terms of pricing. They can't identify a cartridge. Maybe they were overexcited. I mean, maybe they were overexcited.
You have to know what a PAL game is.
You have to.
If you have to know that Trolls and Crazy Land is not a U.S. game.
Yeah. And it's just, it's gonna fuck stuff up if people watch this, because that's what happens every time this sort of thing happens with the games. The prices for the games they blow it all out of the water. Like, they make it seem like the biggest find, and then every mom and pop store in the country has to deal with this bullshit for 6 months.
Sure. Ian, were people doing this after my Pawn Stars appearance?
I don't know, Pat. Probably. No, probably not.